guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 are brought to us by the official beer of the show. That's Johnny Cuba. You know, we're talking European roots with a Caribbean soul. Start your evening with a refreshing German lager in a can. Go pick up a six-pack of Johnny at your local Sedano's, Presidente, Winn-Dixie. You know my style. Come on, get yourself a six-pack of Johnny Cuba. That's how we get the night going. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us here is our pal Craig Minervini. You'll see him tonight, of course, BALLY Sports Florida. Panthers hockey. Craig, great to have you on the newest incarnation. We're about 3 months in to ZASLOW Show 2.0. How about this? We could see each other. This is very nice.
This is better than radio. This is awesome. I've done your show many times. Good to be back.
So tonight, the Panthers, look, nobody talks more Panther hockey than I do, all right? I love the Panthers. I've been very hard on the Panthers this year, all deservedly so. But I think over the next, what are we talking, 36 hours from now, tonight, tomorrow night, we're going to be able to answer the question, Craig. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are the Panthers back?
It's a good gauge. I agree with you. I think it's a big litmus test. They've played well lately in a crazy schedule, really ridiculous. They went out every time zone. They came back for one. They go out for three more, come back for one, out again. It's hard to believe. And through that, they've done well. In that stretch, they've won six. They're 6-2-1 and 7-2-1 overall in the last 10. I agree with you. Tonight, I am very interested to see how they play against the Rangers. They have not fared well at the Garden. Last 5 games, Rangers have had a point each game. They're 4-0-1. Panthers have 1 win. It was in the extra time. I think it was in a shootout, 6-5, a couple of years. They haven't won in regulation since November of 2017 at the Garden. So I think that's a test. And then if you get through that, you got the Penguins tomorrow night in Pittsburgh. Then all of a sudden you got 14 of 19 at home.
Okay.
So I agree with you. I think you got to get 2 points, if not 3 or 4 of the next 2 nights.
Oh, if they can get 3 out of 4 points these next 2 nights, I would feel very good because – you look in the standings, and right now, while the Rangers are a top 3 Metro team, the Penguins are one of the wild card spots, which, let's be honest here, Craig. Realistically, the Panthers, it'll be extraordinarily difficult for them to get top 3 in the Atlantic. They're 8 back of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got 3 games in hand. That's a very difficult ladder to climb. But you look at the wild card, 3 back of Pittsburgh. Yes, the Penguins have 2 in hand, but 5 back of Washington, and the Panthers have a game in hand on the Capitals. So they're finally within striking distance, it seems, of 2 wildcard spots.
I think that's what they've done with this run is just get back in relevancy because they weren't relevant 10 games ago. Now they showed you got to be over 500. They are. But you got to really take that north now. They've gotten themselves back in the conversation. That's what we could say. And we're all trying to buy in. And I think you've seen a lot of good signs that maybe they're more like last year's team now than they have been certainly all year long. But the next 2 nights are going to tell a big story, not the entire story. You think about this run, they really could have won and should have won that Vegas game. It was a little sloppy in a couple of plays. In the Toronto game, you got to put on the ref's shoulders as much as anything else. So I know they've got a lot of wins against the Montreals and teams like that. Colorado, they beat, but Colorado's the defending champion.
The Minnesota game's a good win. Minnesota's a real good win.
That's a good win. Yeah.
So, like I said, they're within striking distance right now. What do you see, if anything, recently? You mentioned that they've got some wins against some bad teams like Montreal. Excuse me. What have you seen recently that would tell you, you know what? I think besides the wins, which is most important, are you seeing a style of play that they're adjusting to? Are you seeing a difference here? Because, Goldie keeps referencing on the television broadcast, when you look at the analytics, and this isn't my thing for hockey, baseball analytics, basketball analytics, that's more my thing. The hockey analytics, that's not really my thing. But Goldie will reference how, it's a mystery that when you look at the analytics, this Panther team should be much better than they are. So you're thinking things are going to wind up evening out by the end of the year. Do you buy into that?
I'm with you. I'm not as big on analytics in the NHL. However, when you have lead the league in inside shots, or you're among the leaders, in that paint area, there are some stats that you're like, that's a significant number. If you're getting shots inside, you should be scoring. Their power play wasn't very good earlier in the year. It's been better, a lot better lately. The penalty kill still's got to improve, in my opinion. 75%. You can win, Zaz, in the NHL with a penalty kill and an average power play. It's hard to do it the other way around. If you're not, and then the other thing I look at, just numbers, is looking today. They played a game against Vegas recently where Vegas had 50 less penalties in terms of power plays difference than the Panthers. And even tonight, I look at the Panthers that killed off or faced 170 something penalties and power plays, and Rangers only 130. So you start adding those power plays up, really hard to win. It's a 5-on-4 game when it's different than other sports. It's not a 10-yard penalty at the 40-yard line. You take a guy off the ice, take a football player off the field, and then what happens to the game 11-on-10? It's a big difference.
The goalie situation. What do we know about Bobrovsky? Do we have any idea if he's in net tonight? And also, big credit to Alex Lyon. The last 2 games, he comes in out of nowhere, did a terrific job. Both these last 2 games, both wins for the Panthers. Obviously, gave a lot of goals, gave a big lead there, the Montreal game, but a terrific job against Minnesota as well.
Yeah, I haven't jumped in on the press conference today yet. I'll catch it on tape because I'm not up there. So I actually don't know about Bobrovsky. You're right. Lyon has been great. There's a lot of really good goalies out there. And if you can provide them with a little defense around there, you see a lot of teams around the league that don't win what you'd call, $1 million, $10 million goalies. So you can win in the NHL, but you got to start protecting your house way better for anybody. And that includes Bob and Spencer Knight too. But yeah, it's been tricky with the injury situation. It's great to have a guy like Lyon, who's 30 years old. He's not a rookie. Played at Yale. Has had some time, not a lot in the NHL, to come through. And he's made big saves in both games to get the wins.
Is this team in a spot, Craig, where if they keep this thing going and they make the front office a believer that, okay, we're on the right track, are they kind of stuck as far as trade deadline moves they can make? I know the draft pick situation, they kind of went all in last year, Sherrod, right. Giroux. I know they're going to have to do some fancy cap maneuvering once they want to get Duclair back on the active roster here. Are they kind of strapped as far as a potential move that they would want to make?
I think, I'm not the best at this, but I would say I would agree with you. I looked at capfriendly.com. They are right against the cap, which is nice to know that your team is spending.
Yeah.
They did go for it last year, and you totally understand why Bill Zito did that. It didn't pan out in terms of going deep into the playoffs. They did win a round, which was big news down here, and obviously didn't play well against Tampa Bay. But I would think that's tricky because you don't have the salary unless you can dump one of your salaries. And you also, here's the other thing, maybe larger, you don't have the draft picks to play around with going down the line. So how do you make too many moves? And then the other thing is, if let's say you're coming in at 7th or 8th, which I agree with your premise, it'd be hard to finish in the top 3. How many moves do you want to make for a team that's just going to get in maybe versus a team last year, which was leading the league in points? So I think there's a lot to handle there. I think here's the good news. We're talking about this because about 3 weeks ago, you'd say the Panthers have got to be a seller. And right now you'd say they're probably more toward buying. But again, as Bob Barker knows, price got to be right.
Do you love Tkachuk? For me, he's been above and beyond expectations first year with the team.
Love him. Hard-nosed, everything you've seen about him. The other night, fighting Mike Matheson after Matheson had what I thought was a very cheap hit on Eric Stahl. And that surprised me because Matheson didn't hit anybody here in his whole career. And I like Mike, too. I like him. I don't think it was an intentional dirty hit. It was just a dirty type play. And he caught Stahl by surprise.
I mean, Craig, the league didn't suspend him for that hit?
And I think he got a $5,000 fine, I believe I saw, which is the limit for the NHLPA. They did not suspend him. I don't know. It was a suspendable hit, but it certainly should have been a penalty at the very least. It did catch a more trunk of the body. It's just that when you're not expecting it. I remember Zaz once when I was interviewing Andre the Giant, and we were out at the Spectrum doing a live interview, and there was nothing in there that said Andre the Giant was going to elbow Craig DeGeorge. That was not in the script. But when I had the mic up, you'd hold it way up here.
Yep.
And I thought I was done speaking. So I brought the mic down like this with my right arm. And he took his right elbow and went, "I am not done talking yet." Right in my gut. Now, it probably wasn't the strongest elbow in the world, but the fact that it caught me by surprise, I wasn't ready for it. And if you're not ready for something, it's a lot worse. You can't brace yourself. And I think that's what happened with Stahl.
They really got screwed. That I mean, the game against Toronto, especially, and look, it made a big difference because both times that Gudas was sent to the box, they scored both those times, and they were both bullshit calls. A charge, Craig. I haven't seen a charge called in the league all year. Like that was a rough night for the Panthers. The officiating.
Yeah, that call there you're talking about was absolutely awful. How you call a charge? I just have no. And I'm an amateur official. I got a call today about my game. I did 4 games yesterday, so I do follow the rule book a little closer than most, and it's a little different in USA hockey, but most of the rules are the same. I don't know how they made that call. I don't like to get on the refs either because I also understand it's a judgment game. It's tricky, and I think they do a great job by and large. I really do. But that one and that game, and I'm glad Maurice took the $25,000 fine. He knew it was coming.
Yeah, you got to do that. You got to if you're him.
You got to occasionally do that.
Yeah,
I know we had some disagreement with who was it? With Dookie over there, Channel 10, who doesn't like a coach whining after the game. I disagree. In that spot, I want to hear truth, and he gave you the truth. Whether you like it or not, another story.
I've been very hard on Maurice this year. I mean, how could you not be? He's an easy target considering what's happened, but I liked him coming out after the game like that. Clearly there is a history. I mean, he got thrown out of a game. What was it, last year, 2 years ago? You never see NHL coaches get thrown out of games. That never happens. No. He's got a history with this referee. And it's not like in the NBA, you're complaining we lost the game because this foul late in the game. The penalties, it was all throughout the game. Like, it was the story of the game. I thought it was a no-brainer for Maurice to defend his team in that spot. Look, I don't know what the relationship is like, Craig, between the new coach and the guys in that dressing room, but I kind of feel like the players were probably pleased with everything he said after that game.
If I'm a player, I like to hear my coach back me, and that certainly was backing 100%. I mean, you lose the game, and he's saying he liked the way his team played, and he's got a personal issue possibly with one of these refs that dates back a few years. And if I'm a player, I like that when my coach, backs me like that. And obviously in an important game, you want to get, they had a lead in that game. You want to get 2 points. You don't want to give Toronto any points. And that's the other factor about these next 2 games is you mentioned the wild card. Where you get right now, that may not be the case, but the Rangers could fall into the wild card. I think they're in 3rd, and the Penguins are right there, and they could go either way. But these are 2 teams you potentially, although not in your same division, you're battling for in the conference for one of those 2 spots.
Yep, absolutely. Finally here, great job here by Craig Minervini. Let's check in real quick with Craig DeGeorge. This weekend is a very big pro wrestling weekend. It is the Royal Rumble this weekend, WWE. Did you, when you were Craig DeGeorge, of course, so we're going back, oh my God, we're going back 35 years, something like that.
Yes.
Were you ever working a Royal Rumble?
Yes, I think I did the first one.
Yeah, that's around 1988-ish, maybe? Yeah.
I think I did the first one. I'm trying to think, was that in Cleveland? No, that was Survivor Series. I don't remember where the Royal Rumble was. I remember I did the first Survivor thing, all those extra, he had WrestleMania, right? Now what can we do in this month? What can we do? So they came up with Survivor Series and Royal Rumble. I believe I was in the first one. I can't even tell you what happened in the Royal Rumble, but I remember it was a big deal. It's got a great name to it, Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah.
How about the Royal Rumble?
Oh, well, the promos, Vince McMahon, of course, used to voice all the promos. It's time to rumble. It's time for the Royal Rumble. How about that? That's a good impression, right, Craig?
That's very good.
There you go. Oh, that's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Sad. Howard Finkel, we lost him, a great PA announcer.
Yep.
When he did, and new.
Well, how about everyone's copied that now? Like UFC, the MMA, you see the hashtags on Twitter, hashtag and new or hashtag and still. That's Howard Finkel's legacy right there.
Howard Finkel, who was a right-hand man behind the scenes with Vince and then grabbed the tuxedo and the mic for those big shows. And, I think Gene Okerlund, we lost a few years ago. So many great wrestling personalities and people. And so I didn't realize the Royal Rumble. I did see there was an anniversary the other day of the British Bulldogs stealing Matilda.
Oh,
very horrific episode, Zaz.
Terrible. How about tonight? Tonight's actually Raw 30 because tonight's the 30th anniversary of the longest running weekly episodic cable television in history, Monday Night Raw.
I wasn't happy when it first came on because it took over that Tuesday Night Titans show, which was a talk show. Anybody remembers back in the day, it was hilarious. You never saw anything like sets were being broke and all kinds of crazy stuff. But an amazing run. Actually, my brother asked me yesterday, we were talking, is wrestling still big now? I said,
Kidding me?
It's incredible.
It's the biggest it's ever been.
Arguably, I don't know if it's as big in terms of popular culture.
But money?
Money-wise, it is, but everything's bigger than money, right? You can't compare the other leagues. I mean, Hulk Hogan was everybody knew him. Savage on the commercials. Now, The Rock is as big as anybody. You know, some of the stars, but he's not their superstar now. He's not a main guy. He pops in maybe here and there. So I still think it was bigger in the 80s in terms of people knowing who these guys are. But from a business standpoint and a success standpoint, it's never been bigger.
You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like we could have that exact same conversation about Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball financially has never been healthier. But are as many people watching Major League Baseball as they were back in the 80s? I don't know. Is it as popular? Well, probably not.
No. You're right. I mean, baseball stars were the biggest stars probably in sport.
In our country, at least,
in the 1980s, 70s, certainly 80s. Then all of a sudden the NBA started taking over. And now it's not even close. They're not even in the some of them guys are known, but not compared to the NFL or obviously the NBA.
Craig, excellent job. Tell everybody, of course, tonight you'll be on Bally Sports Florida in the studio. Tell everyone how they can check you out.
You got it, Zaz. Will be on at 6:30 back with Ed Jovanovski.
That's my guy.
Yes, and Moles and Goldie will be at the Garden in New York, where I grew up going to 1 million games, and Katie Engelson will be doing the sideline. And at 6:30 tonight, the game's at 7 on Bally Sports Florida. And you're right, it's a huge game. I'm really interested to see how they can play tonight in a big one.
Yeah, great job, Craig. Always love checking in with you. Thanks, Thank you, man.
Okay.